Welcome to the final video. We're taking a look at the main theme in Daniel, which is how God communicates with us. And in Daniel 11, we're going to see if we've seen chapters 1 through 10, we've seen different ways that God communicates with us. That's what Daniel's been explaining to us. And now we're going to take a look, see if that continues in chapter 11. I have been standing beside Michael to support and strengthen him since the first day of the year of the reign of King Darius. Now then, I will reveal the truth to you. 3 more Persian kings. So basically, this is telling us Daniel 11 is a continuation of Daniel chapter 10. And remember, Daniel chapter 10, the entire chapter was a chapter on how God communicates with us. I don't think anybody could argue with that. But my question is how come no one explains Daniel chapter 10 about how God communicates with us? But I see people all over chapter 11, and I just want to go through. We're going to look at these time elements real quick. Okay, so he introduces actual chapter 10, Law of the Prophets, tells us how he got this vision. Now then, sends us back to, okay, now then what? We have to understand, that tells us we have to understand chapter 10 before we understand chapter 11. So if people are preaching and they're not explaining chapter 10 before they give chapter 11, just turn off the video. They're not worth listening to. Okay, we see I have been standing, then I guess this is kind of a word. But look at these words that have to do with time. Okay, he introduces it, the year of the king, follows the law of the prophets. So basically we're kind of introducing the time. Now then I will reveal. Okay, then a mighty king will raise up. But at the height of his power, okay, the authority he once had, that sends us back. Okay, and some years later, so there's this time sequence. But when he returns to Egypt, later the king of the north, then in a rage the king, after the army is swept away, a few years later, at that time there will be a general. You know, God wrote this in perfect sequence from one end of the chapter to the very end. But while he is there, his time will suddenly end. Then, at the time of the end, the king of the south will attack them. Okay, so we're going to watch this, you know. Basically, it talks about the time of the end. You know, it's at the end of the chapter. God didn't start talking about the end time at the beginning of the chapter. God didn't mess up. God sees everything in perfect order. We don't need people pulling this out and saying it in chapter 11 or any part of the Bible and saying this applies to this applies to that. You know, you can go and highlight all of these movements. Once you highlight these movements, you're going to see something else in here. So let's go on to chapter 12. So far, we went through 11 chapters in Daniel. Daniel only has 12 chapters. So far we've seen 11 chapters. 11 out of 11. God's getting a pretty good batting average. Follows the law of the prophets. And Daniel's been teaching about how God communicates with us. Let's see if he's 12 out of 12. At that time, Michael, the archangel, who stands guard over the nation, and here we are, we're shown his position over our nation, will arise. Then there will be a time of anguish greater than any since nations first came into existence. There's still a couple of words I got to highlight, but you get the general idea. So basically, chapter 12 is a continuation. So we're reaching the end time, and there will be a time of great anguish, greater than any since nations first came into existence. And at that time, every one of our people whose names are written in the book will be rescued. So what is chapter 12 talking about? Chapter 12 is talking about pretty much the end of time, I'd say. Pretty much many of those whose bodies will lie dead and buried will rise up, and some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting disgrace. Okay, what time period is Daniel talking about? So, is Daniel talking about communicating? He's talking about actions that Michael the archangel is going to be doing. So, who do you think Michael the archangel is if he's kind of associated with, raising up dead bodies? Those who are wise will shine as bright as the sky, and those who lead many to righteousness will shine like the stars. Now, we should probably highlight this with the same, fuchsia color that has to do with seeing, because it's these words like shine and bright sky, the more you study, the more you're going to see they have a symbolic meaning with seeing. Shine bright. A lot of times stars, sometimes within the proper context, stars has to do with seeing. It kind of exemplifies, putting a little bit of flavor. God loves to write. But you, Daniel, will keep this property a secret, seal up the book until the time of the end, when many will rush here and there, and knowledge will increase. Then I, Daniel, looked and saw two others standing on the opposite sides of the bank. So Daniel's telling us, he's still in this vision. It's continuing on. One of them asked the other, dressed in linen, who is now standing above the river? Wait a second. Who is now standing above the river? Wow. We are standing on opposite sides of the banks, and now he's standing on top of the river. You got to look that one up, find out what it means. How long will it be until these shocking events are over? See, we have the time elements again. The man dressed in linen who was standing above the river. Oh, that must be pretty important. Kind of repeated that. I have to take a look at that later. See, I see new things every time. I've been reading the Bible for 30 years, and I see new things all the time. He raised both of his hands towards heaven and took a solemn oath by the one who lives forever, saying, I will go on for a time and a half. Times half a time. When the shattering... Now, highlight the rest of these. When you do it, look over these things, go back over them, make sure. Scattering of the holy people has finally come to an end. All these things will have happened. So this is putting it right in the proper time frame. I heard what he said, but I did not understand what he meant. So I asked, who's he asking? Look at who is Daniel asking. Look, when he asked, how will all this finally end, my Lord? But he said, go now, Daniel, for what I have said is kept secret and sealed until the very end. So basically, we can see a communication between Daniel and his vision and these angels. People are standing above the river. Pretty much tells you where we got to get our information from. Don't get your information from someone that can't walk on water. Oops, I think I just gave away who Michael the archangel is. Anyway, take a look at this stuff, start highlighting it. This is a good guide. You can copy this off of a video thing, paste it into a picture. I'll have a video that'll show that. And you can get into studying and highlight these words a little bit more accurately than I did. But this is a study in context. And once we start highlighting these words and noticing all these little details on how God laid out these words in here, you start noticing things that you never saw before. And we're in the time of the latter rain, and if we're not ready to start understanding all of this stuff the way God is going to be communicating his information to us, we're going to miss it. And back here, some to everlasting life and some to shame and everlasting disgrace. Well, okay, what side do you want to be on? The choice is yours. You can go to these wannabe prophets and, they'll take out one little verse and say, oh, it means this, means that, everything. Well, what about the rest of the story? Why did God use all of these key words then, in the end of time, put all this stuff in perfect sequence? God didn't write his Bible in perfect sequence to have someone come along and take out one verse and put it in another time frame and say, oops, God made a mistake. Okay, what side are they going to be on? The everlasting life or the everlasting disgrace? I would pretty much say it's going to be in this shame and disgrace end, because as long as I've been studying, there's nothing that God is not going to reveal when you ask. And you'd be amazed at the things that God is able to teach you. But you have to start studying. If you have any questions, there's a comment area below. Welcome any questions there are. If you got any suggestions on future videos, put a suggestion box. If you want to make your own videos, I use this program called Screenomatic. So you can use the same one. But start studying. The more you study, the more you're going to start understanding. The more you're going to understand, the more you're going to get. It feeds on, take a look at that food. Study that food. Pick out anything. Hey, let the Spirit lead you on this study. He can, actually God's Spirit can do a lot better job of teaching you than I ever can do, because let me tell you, I've been studying for 30 years, and God just never ceases to surprise me. He always has something new, and He always teaching me new methods, new ways of helping you get other people to understand. So, hey, take up the cross. See what you can do. Pray about God, about your personal ministry, and get to it. Because, we need a lot of workers in those fields. And don't forget to share. Don't forget to press the little like button. Put it on your Facebook. Put it on your social media. Get the word out that, hey, let's take a look at Daniel and get ready for this latter rain that hey, we should be getting. We should be getting it already. Haven't you seen it? I've seen it.